4.
Do you have a gardening problem? We can help you with that. A program dedicated to help you grow a better garden, maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make that grass look a little bit greener, as well as preserving what you grow. We're here to help you with your gardening problem. You're tuned in to Garden Talk Radio.
You are listening to the most informational-packed hour of garden-focused radio in the country and on the internet with your host, husband and wife team Joey and Holly Baird. This is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show.
Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. Find the right size to fit your digging project. Visit powerplanter.com. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us to talk gardening for the next hour. Whether you are listening through your radio on one of the 16 stations that we are on broadcasting our program in 2020, or through a radio app, or through the website, our website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. Underneath the Season 4 tab or podcast replay or in-studio video replay, we thank you for that. I'm your host, Joy Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
This program is all about you. We are here to help your garden grow better, to have healthier trees, to maintain your landscape and your yard, indoors and out, also preserving what you grow. There are several ways in which you can reach out to us. You can send us an email anytime, and our email address is gardentalkradio@gmail.com. You can certainly send us a tweet at TWVG Show, or just simply hashtag TWVG, and we'll tweet back at you. You can follow us on our Facebook page, the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener, or you can jam your fingers in the phone and give us a call at any time, 24/7. And our phone number, and we'll get back to you. We'll call you back if we can't get to you while we are on the air, because our phone lines get pretty hectic around here. So we will give you a call back. You can call us 1-800-927-7469. That's, you can simply remember 1-800-927-SHOW, 1-800-927-SHOW. Well, we have a big show lined up for you, as we do every program. We're going to go over what seeds to start indoors and what not to start indoors, and the reasons why in segment 1. In segment 2, we're going to talk about 5 things that trip up a new gardener, and sometimes all gardeners, and we fall under that category as well. Some of the items that we will cover, we've had problems with. And our guest this week is author and of Turn Here for Sweet Corn, and organic farmer Atina Diffley will be with us, and we'll get to as many of your gardening questions as possible. So let's get into our topic. Our first topic of the day is, what seeds should we start indoors and not start indoors, and why do we want to do those particular seeds?
So many people start seeds indoors to get a jump start on the garden season. Areas where short growing season, or maybe you just want to make sure you're growing a certain variety of vegetable, or to extend your season on either side. So there's some crops you do not want to start indoors, and there's many reasons for this, especially things like potatoes. You're going to start those from a seed potato. Sunchokes, those are started from the tuber.
Tuber, just like the potatoes are, yeah. And then
carrots and radishes, those are very tender seedlings, so you want to, and radishes only take about 30 days to grow, so you want to make sure that you are just planting those, direct sowing them. Beets, you can start in thin, but it's better for direct sow. So beets are a cluster seed, so if you look at a beet seed, it looks like a little chunky ball of dirt, but it's a cluster seed. So there's several seeds in that one cluster. So when your seeds do sprout, you want to trim them back.
And that holds true for the beet seed. The beet seed is related to the Swiss chard seed, which is the same family that has that cluster, but you don't have to thin the Swiss chard out.
The Swiss chard you don't want to thin out.
Yeah, because the more prolific plants, the more plants you get, the more Swiss chard you get. But the beets you got to, otherwise you're going to have very small to almost no bulb development, and that's the purpose why most people grow the beets.
And then these hardier root crops, parsnips, turnips, rutabagas, you don't want to start those indoors. You want to you want to just direct sow them. And you have a tip for starting the carrots?
Yeah, well, with the carrot, with all these root crops, like you said, that if we start them indoors, and there are videos online of people doing this, you're removing your tinder, you're taking the roots out and you're damaging the roots, which is the purpose of the plant, and it's just easier to direct sow at the correct time, and so you don't have to transition them outside, do that hardiness procedure. With the carrots, the easy way to do that is if you're in a raised bed or a garden or anything outside, make your drill or your trench, plant your seeds. Dust the seeds over with a small amount of soil because the seeds are not that large and do not need to be buried very deeply. And then water it in and then cover it with a piece of cardboard or a 2x8 or some lumber. And what that accomplishes is preventing moisture from wicking away from the seed coat, and then it germinates quicker and more successfully, a higher rate of germination, because the seed is not just exposed to the elements, it's actually protected with that cardboard or that lumber. And then after about 20 days, 21 days, which is the typical germination rate for carrots, you want to remove that board. You'll see a bunch of white stringy things. You're good to go. Not a problem, and that really increases your germination rate for your carrots by about 80%. And this holds true if you want to do it with parsnips as well. Those are some more of a challenge to some people getting those started as well.
Mm-hmm. So you also root crops such as cucumber, melons.
Well, them are not root crops, but the viney crops.
Viney crop, cucumber, melons, squash, pumpkins, things of that nature, zucchini as well. And then direct sowing things like corn, beans, whether that be pole beans or bush beans, those need to be direct sown as well. And then peas and Swiss chard, as we talked about in regards to the beets and how they're of the same family. And then there's seeds that are good to start indoors. And actually my department director came up to me saying, asked what we had started, and she had wanted to know if we started our tomatoes yet. And I said, no, not at this point, but because she wants to start hers. So, but many of you may have already started your tomatoes.
Now, when we say these are the best to start indoors, you don't have to start anything indoors. You can go two options. You can direct sow them, and Holly, you can tell your story, or you can go buy them at your independent garden center. You don't have to do any of these.
A lot of times people do it because it gets them in the mood for gardening in the spring. It's something, or late winter or whatever. But also maybe their independent garden center doesn't carry a certain variety of, say, tomato or brassica, or
you have a better selection.
Yeah, you can buy the seeds, you can start them. So if you're like a big fan of the Cherokee Purple tomato or something, and you can't buy that through a start, then you can start indoors. But you can direct sow it, and that's what I grew up doing. I grew up in the city in Southwest Milwaukee, and we would just throw our seeds in the ground Memorial Day weekend, and yeah, that's what we did. And that's how we grew.
No starting anything.
I had no clue about seed starts. Yeah.
So let's talk about what does well if you choose to start plants indoors here. We can talk, obviously, tomatoes work very well. Mm-hmm. Anything in the brassica family.
So that's like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kohlrabi.
Yep. Peppers, they do take a while to germinate, but they do work, and we find it very successful because you do get that variety that you do not necessarily get at the garden center. Eggplants the same way. Leeks, herbs, leeks and onions. Herbs, those are very patient plants, mm-hmm. because they take sometimes up to 30 days to germinate, and you think nothing's going to happen, and then finally they do emerge from the soil.
I want to say real quick about the kohlrabi is that you either want to start it from seed yourself, or you want to purchase it from the independent garden center. Starting it directly in the ground as a seed can be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, we've never had great success with that direct sow with the kohlrabi, so we're going to focus on the starting them inside, because you're not damaging the root, because the root is not the edible portion. If you've never seen a kohlrabi, it's an alien type of vegetation where it's a little stem and then it looks like a baseball, and then it's got these long tentacles of leaves and limbs coming off of it. So, and there's a red variety, a burgundy variety, and then a greenish light green variety. Mm-hmm. And there's small ones and there's gigantic ones that can get the size of almost a volleyball in some instances. So Other things that we can start indoors, we can start in any type of device.
Yeah, you want to think about this. So this would be something like you could use one of those party cups. If you or yourself like to indulge on the weekend, enjoy the party cup lifestyle. Or you can use like sour cream containers, yogurt containers. The biggest thing to think about is the size of the container. So you may see something online, social media. It's like, oh, I can start my seeds in egg cartons. Well, you can, but if you think about the size of an egg carton, each little egg carton spot, those are very small. So those seeds are going to dry out faster, and also you're going to have to probably transplant them pretty quickly.
Yeah, the goal is to plant and the more soil you have, the slower it's going to dry out. The less soil you have, the quicker it's going to dry out. As well, it has the amount of humidity in your home or your greenhouse or your garage or your shed, wherever you're starting these at, greatly dictates the evaporation rate of your soil. Now, we use the Root Maker grow trays, and we've got a coupon, TWVG, and you get 10% off your order. They've got grow bags as well as these very unique, durable cells, planting trays of 18, 32, 64, 72, 105 cells, and they air prune the roots. And instead of getting the root bound or the wraparound roots, they have a very vigorous root system when you grow them in the Root Maker tray, and the more roots you have on a plant, the healthier and happier it is. So that's what we use. Yeah.
If you go to the website, look at the Root Maker trays, you can see how the bottoms are different than like a plastic container or whatever.
Well, what kind of soil, what kind of medium are we starting our seeds in, or what is best?
So you want to start your seeds in, you can do a potting soil, a potting mix, a seed starting mix. You can do direct compost, just directly into compost. But you want to make sure that you have some sort of slow release fertilizer, especially if it's a potting mix or a seed starting mix. Or you want to make sure, and you also make sure it has some sort of, it can be it drains well, but holds moisture.
Yeah, if you use the peat pellets, those are great, really well, works well. But you want to feed those plants with some type of slow release liquid fertilizer or compost tea, whatever the recommended rate is. Go a quarter of the strength, because after about 3 to 4 weeks, the plant has used up all the energy that nature has produced for it in the seed coat. And now it has no nutrient value in those peat pellets, and the plants begin to look spindly and sick because they don't have anything to feed off of. Also, let's talk about the option of heat mats.
Sure. So heating mats are not necessary unless maybe you're growing in a cooler area, like a garage, basement,
greenhouse,
breezeway. Then if you're growing it in your home and you're about 68 to 70 whatever degrees, you're fine. But if it's in an area that might be cooler, the temperature might be inconsistent, that heat mat is going to aid the germination. And you don't want to use like a heating pad from your bathroom that you put on your back when it's sore. You want to use an actual heat mat. And then that way you can control the temperature, and it's evenly distributed.
And finally, grow lights. Not necessarily required, but do make a tremendous difference if you are limited on ambient light. And when we talk about a grow light, we talk about using the Happy Leaf LED grow lights from Happy Leaf LED. They have a very well spectrum lights availability and a good footprint and a great warranty, and they don't lose intensity like tube lights, and we have found nothing but phenomenal success with them. But you can use a south facing window, a 3-porch window. We grew for years out of a west facing window. We just rotated the plants every evening as they grew towards the light. So some things to keep in mind when it comes to what to start indoors, what not to start indoors.
Many of you are listening for the very first time, and we have 105 archive shows available for you to download and listen to from the past 3 seasons, and you can find them by searching the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener podcast on your favorite podcast platform, or we will make it even easier for you to find them. Send us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com, and in the subject line put past season, and we will send you the link. We'll be right back. Do not go anywhere. We'll be talking about 5 things that trip up a new gardener, and sometimes all gardeners. You're listening to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show, a program to help you grow a better garden, maintain your landscape, help your trees grow better, make that grass look greener, and preserving what you grow for indoor and out.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
We here at the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardens understand that healthy soil is always the key to a successful garden. We know that chemical fertilizer burns carbon out of the soil and kills the microlife needed for a healthy soil ecosystem. No worries. Chicken Soup for the Soil by Dr. Jim's will stimulate life in the soil and supply all the nutrients most fertilizers neglect. Rather than force-feeding water-soluble chemical fertilizer, we suggest feeding the microbes a smorgasbord of 100% bioavailable nutrients that your plants can consume when they need them. Chicken Soup for the Soil is an amazing fertilizer that will increase the quality of all the fruits and vegetables you grow. Perfect for gardeners, growers, and farmers. To find out more about Chicken Soup for the Soil and other products, visit drjims.com. That's drjimz.com. The number one key to healthy, productive plants are the roots. Starting from seed to full-grown plants, rootmaker.com has the answer. From seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots, creating a fabulous root system, never again will you have root-bound plants. To multiple gallon grow bag sizes to raised beds, rootmaker.com has your grow needs covered. Visit rootmaker.com. Use coupon code TWVG at checkout and get 10% off your entire order.
Do not go anywhere. There is more of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show to come, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com.
Pomona's Universal Pectin is a high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar or honey to sweeten. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Also available at natural food stores and online.
You can bet the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardeners phone lines are always jammed during the show. So Joey and Holly keep their phone lines open 24/7 to help you. Call anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-7469. Or just remember 1-800-927-SHOW. SHOW. Leave a message and they will call you back.
Dig planting holes from a comfortable standing position. Step, twist, pull, and plant. Visit ProPlugger.com.
Blue Mel's Garden and Landscape Center offers an awesome selection of high-quality garden and landscape products. We have just the plants you're looking for: annuals, perennials, veggies, herbs, and more. Plus, you can always count on us to answer all of your questions and offer expert advice. Blue Mel's also carries the largest selection of bulk landscape materials in the area. Enjoy a beverage from our coffee shop while your kids run around in our huge playground. Join our growing list of highly satisfied customers. Visit the garden center that offers everything you're looking for. Visit Blue Mel's today.
Blue Mel's 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show is brought to you by the following: Power Planter Earth Augers, Ivy Organics, Rootmaker, Pomona Universal Pectin, Chapin Manufacturing Incorporated, ProPlugger, Tomato Snaps, World's Coolest Floating Rain Gauge. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the program. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show. Knew you'd hang around for us to have a conversation with you about the 5 things that trip up new gardeners, and sometimes all of us. We all have problems with things in the garden that causes problems, but a lot of new gardeners face difficulty when it comes to gardening because they have fears and uncertainties about the procedure. And we've been guilty of several things on this list, and the first one is time. Will I have enough time? Do I have enough time? I don't have enough time in order to do this. Well, gardening is, for many people, is a hobby, a weekend hobby, a weekend activity, and you're trying to grow some stuff, but just like any activity, just like any hobby, there's time invested, whether you're car collecting, golfing, you go to the bar for fun, whatever it may be, there's time invested in it.
Also going to be some cost too.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that's something to keep in mind is that you can garden for cheap and you can do it on the weekends or an hour every other day after work or whatever. But it does take some time, and it does take some consistent time and some patience. And that's the biggest thing is people think, okay, this is my first year gardening. I'm going to grow this, this, and this, and this. Okay, I planted my seeds. I'm good. Now this stuff should just grow, right? Like that's what my neighbor does, right? But your neighbor might have 15 years of gardening experience versus you in your first year. And that's the thing about gardening is that it's not something that happens instantaneously. And you're not going to learn it your first year.
Well, and that's the thing. And to go along with that, people, with anything in life, you've got to put some effort for it. Mm-hmm. You're not going to throw the seeds in the ground. You're not going to buy a fixer-up car and then expect you to be able to just go ahead and set it in the garage and it fixes itself automatically. It doesn't work that way when it comes to anything in life.
Right, for sure. So another problem is I don't have much space or any ground. So there's a few different scenarios there that you can take care of that with. One is containers, the straw bale gardening. If you use the straw bale gardening method, make sure you're following the actual method and not some random blog post you read online. You want to get the book, whether it be you purchase it or through your library. There's community gardens, indoor gardening under the Happy Leaf LED grow light. Those are some really good options.
Yes, and then other things about a new gardener or some gardeners of many years is the fear of not knowing everything and the killing of a certain number of plants.
Right, like, join the club, basically. Any gardener from us to Joe Lampall to P. Allen Smith, to anybody, your local university extension office, no one knows everything, and we're all learning every plant and every season. So do we kill plants? We absolutely kill plants. Do we try to kill plants? No, but it just happens. It's part of the world of gardening. You're not going to learn everything your first year again, or your 20th year. Maybe my plant does not look good. What is wrong with it? First thing to ask yourself is, are you watering too much, not enough? Then that's typically a common problem, is inconsistent watering. That is the answer. Consistent watering is the answer to a lot of gardening problems.
Right. If we ask, do you water too much or not enough? And the answer is yes, then, stop doing that. Figure out which one you're not doing or doing too much of.
Or you say, I'm supposed to water them.
Yeah, that's the other thing. People get hung up, and even some hobby weekend warriors get hung up on what does partial shade loving plants mean, and is it okay to plant those in full sun?
Well, no. Partial shade loving plants, they want to have partial shade. They need a little bit of shade to grow the best. Full sun might cause them to bolt or want to create seeds.
In the right conditions, right. They want full sun, but
right.
Based on the...
But we're talking about partial shade loving plants.
Right.
Okay, so partial shade loving plants want shade. If they have too hot or too much sun, they're not going to do well. They're going to look wilty. They're going to be sad. That's why you want to make sure that you follow whatever that plant says.
Partial shade tolerable plants in some instances. There's partial shade loving plants and then partial shade tolerable plants, which means that they will tolerate some partial shade but would prefer full sun if at all possible. And we plant some of these cooler weather crops in that partial shade conditions because they are daylight sensitive and they are heat sensitive as well. So we want to figure out what we have going on there. Now, plants like beets, beans, cabbage, leeks, herbs, carrots, chard, kale, all can be grown in partial shade. However, those plants will not produce to the magnitude that they would if they were in full sun. Leaf lettuce, spinach, plants of that nature, you want to plant in somewhat partial shade because then you're tricking the plant to thinking the day length is not as long, and you're keeping it a little cooler as well when it comes to that planting in partial shade and full sun.
Right.
What
So we're going to talk about growing zones.
This gets a lot of people hung up on what it means and all of that.
So the USDA hardiness zone map, or some people call it the growing zone map, is a guide to help you know what plants and what plants when your last average frost date is, and even in the fall when your first average frost date is, and this will give you an idea when to start seeds, when to plant certain crops. So it's all based off of that. So for example, ours is mid-April to early May, and that doesn't mean that in mid-April we can go and put our tomatoes in the ground. That's not correct. That means that when we decide to start seeds, we're going to back off from that date. So say it's April 15th or something.
For our zone. Now, it's different for everybody.
For ours, but I'm saying
for everybody.
Yours might be March 15th. Yours might be June 15th, what have you. So we back off from that date. So if our seeds are going to take 4 weeks to start before we want to put them in the ground, we're going to back off 4 weeks from that date, for example. And then we base that off of when we're going to put them in the ground. So these are things that you can look up online. You can Google search USDA hardiness zone map, put your zip code and your favorite search engine, and you will find that information. So, and then another question is how do I know what information that I can trust and follow? And this is very important. We are in a world of information on the internet.
Whether it's right or wrong, it's clicks and likes and subscribes.
Yeah, for sure. There is a lot of clickbait out there, and you're gonna come across a feed that says this. If you do this, or just a video or something, if you poke holes in a banana and plant it, you're gonna grow a banana tree, and that's not always true.
If there's 1 million views for that video, and that's the only video that person has up, and there's no information about that YouTube channel, common sense tells you it's clickbait.
Right, pretty much. So the biggest thing is there's a lot of trusted resources, but one, university extensions, those are proven. Anything that is put out by Master Gardener, proven. Anything that is put out by anything we recommend.
An author. Somebody wrote a book because a publisher, or they have a reputation they uphold. If there's YouTube channels such as ours, and there's many other great YouTube channels that have hundreds and thousands of videos, cross-reference. If you see us tell you one thing, go see if somebody else has told you the same thing, and then see if it's print somewhere, and then you can kind of go, okay, there's 4 or 5 sources that tell me to do X, Y, Z. Probably it's a pretty good recommendation to do X, Y, and Z for that particular situation.
Gardening magazines as well. That's good information. Home magazines, what have you. So if it's published, if it's something that somebody had to put work into to contact a publisher and get approved, it's going to be good.
Well, that's some of the things that hang up a new gardener, and sometimes an everyday type of gardener.
Soon it will be warming up. Spring is just around the corner, and you want to make sure you can enjoy your yard without sharing it with beetles or grubs. It's time to start thinking about controlling those beetles or grubs in your garden or your yard. There's all sorts of information out there about Japanese beetles in the Midwest, and there's been a lot of talk in the news regarding the Japanese beetles. Grub Gone can be applied to turf or garden or on ornamentals to control grubs and lessen the impact that beetles have on your yard this summer. Easy to use, apply with any commercial spreader, and irrigate into the soil. You can find all this information at phyllombioproducts.com. That's PHYLLOM bioproducts.com. Biologically tested, and will specifically target grubs and other beetles invaders without harming beneficial insects.
When we come back, do not go anywhere. Author and organic farmer Atina Diffley will be with us. You're listening to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, a program dedicated to help you grow a better garden, maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make that grass look a little bit greener, as well as preserving what you grow.
Do you tweet? Send Joey and Holly a tweet to @TWVG Show, or just use #TWVG and they will tweet you back.
Planting conditions are always favorable with the Power Planter Earth Auger. No matter what the job is, Power Planter has the right size for you. Simply attach to a drill and let the Power Planter do the work for you, creating holes fast and efficiently with ease. Find the size that fits your project at powerplanter.com. Brought to you by Blue Ribbon Organics, providing locally made organic compost and soil blends for gardens, farms, landscaping, and more. Visit blueribbonorganics.com or call 262-497-8539 to find their products nearest you.
You can bet the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardeners phone lines are always jammed during the show. So Joey and Holly keep their phone lines open 24/7 to help you. Call anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-7469. Or just remember 1-800-927-SHOW. SHOW. Leave a message and they will call you back.
Seed Savers Exchange has been saving, preserving, and sharing heirloom seeds since 1975, and today continues to provide those seeds to gardeners just like you. With 600 plus varieties offered in this year's catalog and 18,000 listings on their exchange, their gardener-to-gardener seed swap, Seed Savers Exchange is keeping cherished seed varieties alive. Visit seedsavers.org to request a free catalog or to purchase seeds online for this year's growing season. That's seedsavers.org.
Do not go anywhere. There is more of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show to come, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com.
Protect your plants against damage with the 3-in-1 Plant Guard and Special Blend Fertilizer. Visit ivorganics.com.
24/7, 365. The WisconsinVegetableGardener.com is your place for all things gardening, canning, radio shows, digital magazines, and more. The WisconsinVegetableGardener.com.
The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is brought to you by the following: Phylum Bioproducts, Spartan Mosquito, Dr. Jim's, Nasala Kabucha, MI Greenhouse LLC, Green Gobbler, Water Hoop, Seed Savers Exchange. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. As the temperatures begin to warm, now you can start thinking about how and what you need to do to liven up your property, your landscape, your garden. And Blue Mel's Landscape and Garden Center has everything that you possibly could need in order to accomplish the goals in which you have forth for your property. They have 40 varieties of bulk material, from gravel to sand to wood chips to compost and everything in between. They have a knowledgeable staff. They can cater to your landscaping needs. You don't want to cut your grass? They can do that for you. They don't do it for free. I mean, it's a service. 4930 West Loomis Road in Greenfield, just off of Layton. You can call them anytime at 414-282-4220. Blue Mel's Landscape and Garden Center, the place that has everything that you need.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the program. So glad you've hung around. You want to listen and learn from our guest this week. Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest.
Atina Diffley is an organic farmer, public speaker, and author of the 2013 Minnesota Book Award winner, Turn Here Sweet Corn, Organic Farming Works, a memoir based on Atina's life running the Gardens of Egan Organic Vegetable Farm. Welcome to the program, Atina.
Oh, hello. So glad to be here.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us on the program and not only enlighten Holly and myself, but all of our listeners across the country. We want to start with where did the ideal for your book, Turn Here Sweet Corn, come from? Because everybody has these very unique stories about how certain things in life inspired them to take that next step or create that masterpiece of their that they've shared with people.
Well, it's the garden, and you have a gardening show, so I'm sure all your listeners know how inspiring the garden is. And just that daily interaction in the garden where you're just seeing nature right there and its relationship to food is so exciting. And my customers don't get to experience that, so They were real hungry for those stories.
Was there actually a sign that said "Turn here for sweet corn," or was this?
Yeah, right,
Okay.
right at the side of the road. We had a roadside stand for 36 years in Eagan, Minnesota. So that was the introduction to turn into the roadside stand.
What is "Turn here, sweet corn" all about? What's the when our listeners get the book? What's their expectations when reading the book?
Well, it's really about our relationship with the earth, the plants, the animals. It's a love story. It's a lesson in entrepreneurship, and it's even a legal thriller because we had a lawsuit with the Koch brothers. So people really enjoy winning and getting empowered through that whole story. But, fundamentally, it's about the relationship we all have with the land that feeds us, whether or not we ever know where that land is.
Yeah, some people think that the food comes from aisle 9 at the grocery store, and that's simply not the case. And that's what we make it very. Our niece and nephew are 9 and 5 now, and they are very aware of where things come from and are excited when they get to go into the backyard to harvest what they have planted.
Yeah, we had a couple of experiences in our farming career that profoundly changed our life. One of them was losing our first farm to development. And when that happened, it was an ecological collapse. So we saw firsthand how we as farmers were dependent on all these other species in our landscape that we had really taken for granted. They were quite invisible to us until they were gone. And then they were very visible in their absence. So that's a big part of the book, is going through that experience and letting the readers see that firsthand themselves.
Yeah.
Through the character's experience.
It's amazing how one domino that you may not think is going to affect anything can greatly have catastrophic results.
Yeah, once the bulldozers, they removed every tree, every bush, every blade of grass. They even sowed the living topsoil. And once they did that, any agricultural crops that we had in the vicinity, we got overrun by disease and pests. We didn't have any life to hold the water. When it would rain, it would run off. So we quickly saw there's all these ecosystem services that we were just getting from the other species on the land that we took for granted. Never again.
Now, with that, going into that, the diversity, what is soil biodiversity and why is it important to all types of vegetable growers?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting when you start learning about what's in soil. It's a very complex ecosystem. There's bacteria, algae, fungi, protozoas, earthworms, insects, small vertebrates, plants. Most of them aren't even visible to the naked eye, but they're providing all these ecosystem services, water storage and purification. We hear about climate change every day now. Carbon sequestration is a huge service of the soil biodiversity, holding the carbon intact in the soil so that it won't bleach with the rain or wash away. It's the complete recycling system for nutrients. When things die of any species, they get recycled in the soil and then taken up by the plants again. Once they're taken up by the plants, they're intact. So it just goes on and on and on, but the complexity of it is immense. Pest and disease control is often a big part of soil management, that it has microbial life in it that will help manage the pests and disease that could attack our plants.
And you bring up a very detailed plan there of how nature takes care of itself, and that's what we encourage when we talk to gardeners at their backyards, that you don't need to go buy gallons of harmful chemicals. Just let nature take care of itself. Yeah, there's some things that we have to kind of interact with a little bit, but if we allow nature to do what nature has always done and seems to know how to do this stuff pretty well, then we don't need to use those harmful chemicals that can disrupt those procedures that have been set in stone for since the beginning of time.
Exactly. Nature has those systems worked out, and we've disrupted our systems so much in the United States and most of the world that when you first stop using chemicals, at first it can be really challenging because those systems aren't in place, but they will return. So if you can get through those first couple of years, it usually gets a lot easier.
Now, you had won a huge ecological lawsuit, as you mentioned with the Koch brothers. Please tell us more about that.
Yeah, we were threatened. We lost our first farm development, and we moved to a second farm. Got it, put it through cleanup, and had it certified organic. And we're running a successful farm, and we were threatened by a crude oil pipeline owned by the Koch Industries. So what we did was we intervened in the legal proceeding, and we argued that an organic farm is a valuable natural resource, like a wetland is, and it should be avoided when feasible and protected if it could not be avoided. So that was just really fascinating because we were able to demonstrate in court all these ecosystem services that are provided by organic farming systems that go beyond the food produced, because the fertility system is based on soil building and increasing carbon. We could show carbon sequestration. We could show reduced water runoff and pollution in the rivers, et cetera, because our insect management system is based on having beneficial plant species to attract beneficial insects. We could show benefits to society in pollinators and intact ecosystems. So we could just show all of these systems and then quantify these ecosystem services. So in a court of law, to protect something, you have to show how it will impact human beings. That's how our legal system works. We can't just say there will be a loss to nature. We have to show the loss to humans. And that is what we did. We showed that these agricultural systems, organic agricultural systems, are providing more than just the food. So that was just really wonderful because it educated the judge and it educated the Public Utilities Commission, and that is now affecting decisions they've made since. So one of the big things I really learned in that case was how, as citizens, ordinary citizens, we really have these opportunities to educate people who are in decision-making positions and influence how things are decided and what decisions are made. So do get involved, do write letters when you have those opportunities. When you see an opportunity like this to change a law, take it. And we were able to create an agricultural mitigation plan for organic farms in Minnesota that does protect them now. And other states have copied it. Wisconsin is one of the states that have copied that plan since then. So you have that plan now too, and many energy companies have copied it.
Well, and with you being able to, and many people know who the Koch brothers were and are, their pockets go bottomless when it comes to financial and money, and you were able to defeat the Goliath, so to speak, because you had the proof, because you showed in a court of law, this is what is actually occurring, and this is what's going to happen if you do X, Y, and Z. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, you had like 4,500 letters written in support of you for this case as well?
Well, yeah, we turn to our customers, and we're just a local farm. We only sell in our community here in the Twin Cities area. But we turn to our customers and just ask them to write a letter to the judge, telling the judge how they would be affected if our farm was gone. And we said, just write about your personal experience. These letters were amazing. There were letters from doctors who prescribed organic food to their customers. There were letters from chemically sensitive people who said the food from our farm was the only food that didn't make them sick. There were letters from people that said 4 generations of their family had been eating food from this farm, and that they planned their every summer family reunion in August so they can get sweet corn and watermelon from here. But those letters were very important because the judge has to read every single one of them, and they were a big part of educating the judge.
To put him in a position that he could make a decision that was not biased one way or another, but was actually according to the law, because sometimes we see these judges lean one way or another based on influences is not always the correct way to do such.
Yeah, and what you just said is really important. You have to give the judge data that they can make a ruling on. Otherwise, it would be against, they can't just say it because they believe it's right. You have to give them the evidence to substantiate the decision that they're going to make.
Absolutely. Well, Tina, how can our listeners find out more about you? Where can they go on the web to find more and get your book?
Sure. Well, they can read my book, Turn Here Sweet Corn. It's a fun way to learn about all these topics because it's written like a novel. It's a true story, memoir, but it's a fun read. They can go to my website, which is my name, AtinaDiffley.com, and they can find links to the book there. They can find excerpts from the book. And I actually have all of the legal documents from the pipeline case on my website. So if anyone is dealing with anything similar, they're free to download those and use any language from them that is useful to them.
A great resource. Well, Tina, we greatly appreciate you taking time and coming on the program and sharing your story with Holly, myself, and all of our listeners across the country.
My pleasure, and thanks for working with gardeners. They are some of the most important tasks in the world is growing food.
Absolutely. Well, when we come back, it's going to be all about your garden questions and our garden answers. You're listening to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, a program dedicated to help you grow a better garden, maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make that grass look a little bit greener, as well as preserving what you grow.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Make watering easy. DripWorks provides quality drip irrigation supplies and equipment to gardeners just like you for all your growing needs across the U.S. and Canada. Purchase online at dripworks.com.
Do not go anywhere. There is more of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show to come, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. You are listening to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, a program to help your garden grow better, have healthier trees, maintain your landscape and yard, indoors and out, plus preserving what you grow.
Trim Bin turns any chair into a workstation. Comfortably sort your herbs, dried flowers, cannabis, and more. Easily collect pollen with a static brush and mirror finish collection tray. High walls keep your work contained. To get yours, visit harvest-more.com. Made in California.
Blue Mel's has been one of Milwaukee's premier garden centers for over 60 years.
We have always been committed to putting our customers first. When there's demand, we stock it.
When there is an idea, we grow it.
When there's an opportunity, we build it.
And when there is a need, we deliver. Our family continues to offer you the industry's best garden and landscape products and services.
The same as my parents did when they first started the business back in 1955.
Visit Blue Mel's.
Quality and service are the roots of our business.
Blue Mel's, 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is brought to you by the following: Neptune Harvest, Happy Leaf LED, DripWorks, We Grow Indoors, Deer Defeat, Harvest More, Blue Ribbon Organics, Blue Mel's Landscape and Garden Center, Chip Drop. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the program. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Thank you so much for hanging around. We've got a bunch of your questions that we are going to answer. If you've got a question, you can certainly send it to us via email at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. You can also drop us a phone call. You can jam your fingers in the phone and call us at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-SHOW. And we can get your question answered. If you can't get through, certainly leave a message and we will call you back.
So, this is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Did you have a question or comment?
Yes, I'm a first-time gardener, and I'd like to know how long or how big my seedlings need to be before I plant them in the actual ground.
Well, that's a good question. A lot of people fear that they are going to put their seedlings out too soon, and a couple of things you want to be aware of is, one, it's a common question. So a general rule of thumb is when a seedling has about 3 or 4 sets of true leaves, it's large enough to go outside in the garden after the hardening off process. Now, when I say 3 or 4 sets of true leaves, that's the canopy beginning to develop. Not the very first set of leaves are going to be the seedling leaves, and then as you see 2 sets of leaves right and left, and then front and back and right to left, then that plant is going to be adequate to go outside and begin to grow. And let's talk about the hardening off process real quick. So once you've got a seedling that is established at the correct amount of true leaves, then we want to transition it outside, but going through a hardiness program or system, we can't just take it from the grow room, plant in the garden, and everything's wonderful, because that's not going to work.
Right. So you want to, about a week before you're going to plant your seeds, every day you want to put them outside for about an hour and increase that time. So for about a week before. So the first day an hour, second day a couple hours, third day 3 hours, and so on up until a week before. And then you want to leave them outside the night before you're going to put them, overnight before you're going to put them in the ground. And this acclimates them to the outside climate.
Does that help?
Okay.
Yep.
Now, does this apply both to vegetables and herbs?
Yes, it does apply to vegetables and herbs. Depending on the type of vegetable, if it's tomatoes or peppers or eggplants or the warmer weather crops, we want to make sure we plant them outside during the appropriate time when the soil temperature is 55 degrees at root zone. The herbs are going to need a much warmer soil temperature, the 60 to 65 range, as those are very warm weather crops. But the transitioning them outside through the hardening them off is the same for herbs and vegetables for both, yes, and the same amount of leaves are needed to get those outside at the appropriate time. And with that question, we would also advise, if you can direct sow the plants outside without having them start indoors, then you don't have to worry about the transitioning period. You can allow nature to take care of them themselves. But we do start a lot of indoors, and that's a very good question and a good follow-up to that.
All right. Well, thank you very much. You've been a lot of help.
Well, thank you for giving us a call, and we appreciate that. And you're always welcome to get a hold of us anytime. And we will go to another question here. You can call in just like that last caller did at 1-800-927-SHOW, 1-800-927-SHOW, anytime, day or night. Holly, what's the next question on our list that we have gotten in for the show here?
You're going to have to tell me.
Here. Question is, I've got ash from my fireplace. Is it good to put in my raised beds or in the ground? Is this correct? Have I understood this procedure correctly? And you can add wood ash to your soil in small amounts. It does sweeten the soil, raises that pH level, and it can add to, depending on what you want to grow. If you raise the pH level too much or too alkaline, the soil, which is harms the plants. It doesn't like when there's too much alkaline in the soil. You want a pH about 6, 8, 7, 2, somewhere in that range, depending on what you're growing. The more acid-loving plants, like blueberries, want about a 4.5 to 5, kind of 4.5, 5, somewhere in that range. But you can sprinkle it across your garden. It doesn't hurt it at all, but you want to do it sparingly and not to add too much, because it can cause growth problems on your vegetables.
So Jane asked, how do you keep squirrels from eating all the bird seeds from the feeders?
Couple of things that you can do here. One, if you've got a thin metal pole that they are climbing up or transitioning up, what you could do is remove that pole and attach a slinky to the bottom of the bird feeder, so when they crawl up, they get a hold of that slinky and they can't climb and they're just bouncing up and down.
Some people spray it with cooking oil.
Cooking oil, lubricant of a variety of different organic and inorganic consistencies. The other thing you can do is you can buy bird seed that has heat or chili powder infused into it, the very hot chili powder, because the birds cannot taste that heat. However, squirrels do have those sensory mechanisms in their nostrils and mouth in which they will eat that and essentially burn their mouths, and they will find elsewhere to consume bird seed, preferably your neighbors. But you can get rid of them from eating your bird seed that way.
All right. So here's another one. They want to know, can I use pressure treated lumber for raised beds and building raised beds this year? Just trying to find the best lumber to use. Can I use pressure treated?
Well, pressure treated, we encourage you to follow us on our website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, where we will be transitioning our in-ground garden to raised beds. However, we are going to look for pressure treated lumber because it doesn't contain the arsenic as it did back in the 90s. This is copper treated. There's a copper material that is treated with this lumber. And copper, there is some microscopic amounts of copper that's in soil. And people are concerned about the leaching into the soil. Well, there's not that much to be concerned with the new pressure treated lumber nowadays. And pine, I'm just pulling arbitrary numbers here because I don't know the exact scientific rot procedure on pine, but let's say a pine raised bed will last 3 years. Pressure treated, you may pay a little bit more for the lumber, but you're going to maybe 75% to 100% longer. Maybe you'll get 5-6 years out of that raised bed with that pressure treated lumber, and it's well worth the investment. And we will certainly, when we construct our raised beds, we are going to use pressure treated lumber because there is not that concern of the toxicity in which it once had in it in the 90s, that arsenic. So, yeah, go ahead and use the pressure-treated lumber. Works very well. We encourage you to do such. And if you can, and money is not an option, Western red cedar is the best because it's rot-proof, and that's the best scenario, but we all don't have necessarily that option or the availability to that particular type of lumber. Here's a question, Holly. This is for you, Holly. For those of you who are not aware, Holly is a multi-award-winning Wisconsin State Fair canner. Question here: I had 2 pints of jam. I had 2 pints jars, not seal, when I made made jam yesterday. I had heard you can reprocess it and try again. Today
Okay, yeah. So for jam, that might be a little bit tricky because jam does need that heat and then the process to set up. So I think it would be okay with jam. But if you're canning, like, say, salsa or chutney or pickles, whatever, then you can reprocess it. You can try out the jam. It should be okay. But what you want to do is you want to start with everything at room temperature, and that would be the water, the jars. Put a new lid on the jar, and then once you have, then you put it into the canner, get the water boiling, and then once it's at that full boil, then you would start your timer.
Well, for people who are not really that into canning or new to canning, what is one of the main reasons why a jar may not seal properly during the canning procedure? Is there this is the always reason why?
Sometimes it's because maybe the top of your jar has had some moisture on it from when you were filling it. It could be because we always check our jars. We check the rims to make sure, like with just our finger, to make sure there's no like little teeny dents or cracks or something in it. So that could be why. Sometimes it's just how it works out.
And when we talk, what is the lids that you recommend? I know there is a quote-unquote reusable type of lid versus the metal lid that many of us are familiar with.
I just use the regular metal lids. People like the reusable lids. They have a lot of success with them, but that's something that I've never decided to try.
Now, it's not necessarily it's a gasket that you have to replace, right? Okay.
Yeah, so there's a part you still have to replace, but as far as part of it, you don't. So it's really up to you. I guess I just don't have the patience to try to figure those out, monkey around with them.
Okay. Nathan has a question. He is in Green Bay, and he wants to know, I have failed miserably at gardening for the past few years. Well, we are sorry to hear that, Nathan. So last year, I did nothing but work on getting better soil. Okay, that's a good step. This year, my goal is to start earlier with better seedlings and seeds. All right. My question is, can I put my seeds from seedlings out in my greenhouse right away, or must I keep them indoors? I live in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I'm thinking of starting tomatoes the second week of April. Thank you.
Well, you can start them.
But in Green Bay, that would be about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all based, as we talked about in the second segment, your growing zone. With the greenhouse, the transition period, if you're taking it from inside your ambient 70-degree home and you're taking it outside into the greenhouse, it depends if your greenhouse is a heated, climatized greenhouse, and many greenhouses of small stature are not. So it would be questionable to do such if the conditions of long range is not sustainable to above freezing. You want to be aware of that. You may want to keep them in longer inside in the house, and then do the hardening off procedure, and then you can allow them to hang out in the greenhouse until it is actually safe and frost free to put them in the ground at the appropriate time in the Green Bay area. Now, here in Zone 5A in southeast Wisconsin, we plant ours the Memorial Day weekend. Most instances, sometimes we get them planted a little earlier. But I would be very cautious of just putting them out in your greenhouse if it is not climatized due to that hard cold that they can experience. Tomatoes are a very tender plant and do not do well when the temperatures drop below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, that's all the time we have. We greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us on the program. We certainly appreciate your time. The WisconsinVegetableGardener.com is our website, and you can click on the Radio Season 4 tab at the top of the page, or you can send us an email anytime at gardentalkradio@gmail.com, and we will send you the link to this show, and we can get any of your additional questions answered. And you can check out past shows in the garden videos while you are on the site. Tell your garden friends that this program is on the radio, as it is how we advertise and let everybody know. You can find all of our podcasts at our website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, and we certainly appreciate your help spreading the word about our program. Join us next week on the show, where we will be talking about the difference between heirloom, organic, hybrid, F1, F2, and GMO seeds, as well as the real story behind companion planting and why it's not completely true. Our guest will be a host of PBS's Growing a Greener World. Several of you have reached out to us and said we really want to have you have this host on your show. Joe Lampo will be with us, and we will answer more of your garden questions. That's all next week, same time, same station. Until then, for
Holly Baird,
I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.